Tired of screwing up, tired of going down, tired of myself, tired of this town.
Eminent Waste of Time, episode 18. I'm Doug.
And I'm Chad.
And Chad is not playing hurt this time.
Look at me, I'm smart, and I didn't even hit my knee on the desk this time.
I thought things came in threes, but you proved us all wrong.
Yep, I'm going to say it's because of the excellent new chairs that we got.
These are, I'm going to move just a little bit here so you can see the razor-y goodness.
And they're not on fire.
And they're not, and they're comfortable. Actually, they're really comfortable.
Yep. No, they are. In the Razor buggies, the ones I've sat in, wasn't so happy with them. They felt very flexy. These are out of I'm wanting to say they're out of a 2015 Razor.
Oh, okay, so they're modeled back.
Yeah, they're a year or so back. So I don't know if they changed something about them, but the ones I sat in it was an 18 model. Man, those things moved a ton.
These do. I mean, the seat itself, like the padding was fine, but the bolsters just felt like they were made out of really thin plastic or something. They just moved a ton. These are rigid. They
stout.
They hold you in, but they don't just flop either.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely a fan.
Yep, they're good.
Hopefully this desk won't be moving that fast.
Yep. We need harnesses and helmets then if it does.
We did talk about doing the show like full helmets, ears, headsets and microphones, boom mics and all that kind of stuff, but
Let's not. Let's just not.
Yeah, we don't need that many gimmicks to make the show work. So we have a ton of listener feedback.
More than I would have imagined for this time, but I'm thrilled.
We're not even going to get to all of it, I'm positive.
Yep.
But thank you so much, because this is really what we wanted. We wanted this to be a platform for us to talk to you and hear about what you're interested in and have it be as much of a two-way communication as it possibly can be, being a one-way medium. But no, we really appreciate the input, and we keep gaining listeners. We keep gaining, I'm not going to call them fans because that just seems weird. We're just two normal guys in Indiana.
Yeah, we were talking about that this weekend as I was building these seats and Doug was doing some electrical work in the pole barn there, and it's like, we're just two normal guys. It's really strange that people listen to us. I mean, we're thrilled about it, but it still seems kind of odd,
Yeah, so without any further ado or self-disparagement, because, I don't know,
we're good at that.
We're good at that.
I can go on for hours talking bad about it.
Douglas Walter, hey, I want to apologize. First of all, you sent this email back on December 22nd, and I read it, and I'm going to blame Christmas and Chad's bah humbug spirit, and that's why I forgot about it. But
whatever.
He writes, great show. I tend to ramble, so I'll drop the questions first. What is your favorite track to ride/race, and why? As an amateur ATV racer, I've transitioned from motocross hare scrambles to cross country. Used to run an 06 Suzuki LTR 450 for motocross, and now I've moved to a 16 Renegade 850 for cross country, and I love it. My favorite track is our local hare scramble track in Sugar Camp, Wisconsin. Has a great variety of tight woods, hills, and grassy straights, and a small sand section. So there you go. That's his favorite, which actually we did kind of talk briefly about our favorite types of tracks back, I don't know, episode 2 or 3 or something along. It was a
long while
back,
ago, yeah.
Back in the half-hour format. And really, we kind of talked about one of our favorite types of track would be one that offered a wide variety, which seems to be what Doug's talking about.
Yeah, it sounds like that's what he has there.
But I don't know that we've done enough to say we have to name a specific track that we really, really like. I don't know, looking back in our past race season, if there was a standout one for you.
Well, for our series, they tend to rotate the tracks every year anyway. They may be on a section that's the same, but they generally have to let the land heal up quite a bit in between because,
oh man,
not just us, but the whole race series. I mean, some of the bigger ones. Well, the biggest one, we're touching right at 900 people this year.
Yeah, we're there or just over.
Yeah, just over 900. And the property was really small. It was only about 100 acres, give or take. And about 25 of that is taken up with like parking. So you're running on 75 acres. There wasn't a whole lot of track variance. So 900 racers just putting horsepower down all they can just shred the ground.
Oh, yeah. Especially if there's any kind of creek crossing where you're dragging water up and you're spitting mud back.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you're talking 4-foot deep gashes where the things that can get down there side by side can't do that because of high center. But, dirt bikes and stuff, they're just shredding and they keep making deeper and deeper and deeper ruts. And
oh, yeah. We had some dirt bikes. I had one guy who was buried up to his radiators on the dirt bike. It was
oh, my word.
It was bad. It was, yeah. And they were just pushing dirt out of the groove where their foot pegs were and everything else. It was just shoving the sidewalls out of it, and it was bad. We had to reroute them, get them around. It was nasty. So back to the question, I guess. My favorite, I don't have an exact favorite track. I like something with the variety. I've said that. Racing wise, I like something that's wide open. I want to let the machine get out there and run. But if I'm just riding, like trail riding, I prefer a more technical track at that point.
Yeah, because you don't have anybody pushing you. It's just you versus the track itself.
Yeah.
There's nobody behind you we did have a race where we'd been a tie rod because somebody pushed us into a tree. It wasn't intentional, but it was tight and it was downhill, and we hit the brakes to make the corner, and they came back and tapped us, which pushed us wide, and boom, bent tie rod.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a little harder to enjoy a tight technical trail when you've got people pushing you.
Yeah, and when it's tight and technical, especially when it's rocky or with roots or anything else, you just take a beating, especially when you're trying to go fast through there. Whereas when you're trail riding, you can take it easy and you can let the suspension work over it, and you don't feel like you were attacked by a baseball bat through the whole thing. So,
yeah.
I guess it kind of depends what I'm doing. Like I said, racing, I prefer something a little more open to let the machine run, because I'm both a mechanic and a racer / driver on it. So I want to show what my time spent wrenching on it will produce, and I also want to show what my driving will produce. If it's tight and technical the whole time, the machine really doesn't matter. I mean, the little 800s can keep up with the big 1000s and some of the really tight technical stuff. So,
yeah, I'm with you. Honestly, if I'm racing, I want something a little more open. I don't mind if there's technical sections, but a lot of the racing we did, 90% of it was just follow the leader through the woods. And if somebody in front was going really slow, that's the speed you went, because there was no way to get around them.
Yeah, and if anybody got around them, they were out of there because a slow person, like in regular traffic on the road, is holding up everyone behind them.
So now if you were legitimately competing with somebody, let's say they're just behind you, and they find a way around, or they cut the course, or whatever they do to get around, and you don't have that opportunity for whatever reason, they're gone now.
And they're making up minutes of track time when you're stuck there behind someone else.
But I like this. I kind of want to go up to Wisconsin now and check out this track. I mean, he's talking about it's got some sand, it's got some tight technical woods, it's got some wide open grassy areas. You can just, put the pedal down and run. That sounds like a whole lot of fun.
It does sound like a good time.
It's a little bit different, style, that hare scramble, it's a little bit different style track, but I'd be up for that.
Yep, I'd be for it. So,
in fact, that's a lot of what we're going to be doing this summer. Is as we're planning out our trips, we really just want to see how different people are riding in different parts of the country and kind of bring that back to the listeners here. So, I don't know that we're going to get up there. The schedule is getting real tight all of a sudden.
Real tight. I started thinking about all the things we need to do, and
it's like grocery shopping when you're hungry.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing right now. We're hungry to get out there and do this different stuff, and we might be buying more than we can possibly chew.
Yeah, no. We'll try. We'll
see what we got. I want to get to this one first because I got a bone to pick with Robert Higbee.
Okay.
No, I don't actually. He says, okay, from a corporate group that I've worked with, I see you have a Dell on the desk. Well, I don't right now. You'll notice the logo on there. This is my personal laptop, which is a RZR. The other laptop that I've been sporting is my work laptop, and I'm just using it. We're not recording on it. We're literally just using it for me to look at the documentation because my eyes are old and I can't see the monitor way over there. Plus, we've had a couple of non-recording incidents, so I like to have the full screen view of what we're recording to make sure it's actually working.
I agree.
Re-recording a half-hour show is one thing. If this blows up tonight, there's not going to be an episode.
Or we'll try again another night, maybe if we got time. But
so, anyways, He says BP runs them. They suck. That is not an official endorsed view by Eminent Performance or its associates.
Disclaimers.
Go with HP. They last forever and in all conditions. That's what I run at my work, and now they've been up there for years. Also have one at home till I went to a Mac. Hence, it still never died. Kids still have it. Personally, I kind of agree with you. I actually prefer HP, but I work for the government, and a lot of this stuff is based on pre-bid contracts. So literally when I went to work there, they said, you can have this Dell laptop or that Microsoft Surface Pro. And I'm not a big Surface Pro fan.
I don't like them either. I've tried them.
The main reason I don't like it is the Surface Pro has a really super high-res screen. It's like almost a full 4K. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
And Windows 10, for whatever reason, has not figured out how to do scaling properly. So I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but all of a sudden everything just kind of goes wah and then back again.
Yep.
No, that does not work for me on a daily basis because I have to look at the screen all day.
One of the guys in my group, he got the brand new Surface, and it is full 4K and everything else. And I'm due for a laptop at the end of this year. I will not be going that route. I kind of have a choice, like you. I have, a couple options, but I have no desire to have a touchscreen laptop. I won't use it. I have no desire to have the screen detached from the keyboard. I won't use it.
And I guess that's part of my beef too. Was I guess just coming from where I used to work, I did a lot of work in closets where I had to brand new switch, reconfigure it, on the spot. Didn't have time to do it, in an office setting. It had to be done live. And so I've got my laptop like balanced on one knee while I'm crouching.
Yeah.
You can't do that with a Surface Pro because the keyboard's not actually physically fully attached and it's that thick.
They are on the new ones. Have you not seen the new ones?
Well, yeah, that's the Surface Book, not the Surface Pro.
Yeah.
So
it's got the locking thing. We're getting into IT stuff. These people don't care.
Anyways, long way around. I had two choices. I chose the lesser of two evils. But yeah, actually, if I had my choice, Robert, we're really a big fan of the Lenovo's. The high-end Lenovo's, you will last forever. They're absolute battleship laptops. They're not fancy. They're just black and square, and they are the least fancy-looking thing out there, but they work really, really well. So
I agree. But anyway.
So far, the Dell's treated me well, though, so for free, I'll take it. Actually, it's still the government's, so another disclaimer. Anyways, he says... what do we got here?
Trucks. He wanted to know about trucks.
He did want to know about trucks. He said, actually looking at new diesel trucks and want to tow about a 40-foot toy hauler, not going to be brand loyal on that, looking for the best diesel engine. Well, you're not going to want that F-150. Not with a 40-foot toy hauler.
No.
Chad, I'm going to let you take this first, and then I'm going to give my opinion.
Okay. I would say if you rewind the Wayback Machine and we go back, 10 or 15 years, we'll say. We'll go back to, early 2000s or something, or along those lines anyway. If you're going to just tow and you don't care about the fuel mileage and money's not an option, or it's not a hindrance in you in any way, go with the Cummins. Because it tows great. Now they get worse fuel mileage, but they tow great. But if you're kind of going to do a mix, you're driving it to work, plus you have to tow, then I would say go with the Power Stroke at that point. I'm sorry, Robert, I would not recommend the Chevys. I think the motors were great, and I think the transmissions were astounding, the Allison transmissions in them. When you break tie rods because you accelerate too hard, there's a fundamental design flaw in the design in that front end. So
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, the Chevy trucks or the diesels, especially on hard launch, you could break the tie rods simply by taking off too fast.
There's all the power from that Cat diesel. But most people don't know this. None of the big three up until recently made their own diesels, but Chevy was sourcing them from Caterpillar at that point.
Yeah. So back then, I had more knowledge of them. I was more looking at them. I'm not in the market to buy a $100,000 diesel truck at all. So, whatever. I think nowadays they've evened out a lot. I think Chevy's fixed a lot of their problems. It's still, when I get in a heavy-duty Chevy truck, they still feel lighter duty than the Fords and the Dodges, in my opinion. I tend to like the Ford interiors better, but I don't know that there's enough of a difference to really care. It's kind of personal preference on the interiors and even the drivetrains anymore. So take it for what that's worth. That's really a watered down, non-direct answer, isn't it?
Okay, I'm going to just recommend the Cummins, period. I'd go with the Ram. Now, several reasons. Number one, I have not been in a newer F-250, like the 2017 on up, the aluminum-bodied one. But if you're talking fairly recent history, say 2011 on up, I think the Ram had a better interior, and I just like the feel of the truck better, especially if you're talking more recent than that, 14, 15, where they started doing the rear coils in the 3/4 ton Rams. If you bought the 1 ton, you still got leaf springs in the back. But I just liked the truck better. I thought it drove better. I liked the interior better. I liked the feel of it better. And I'm originally from the north end of the state, and if you know anything about Indiana, the Elkhart area is the RV capital of the world. That's where most of them come from. If you bought an RV in the United States, it probably came from Elkhart or Bristol or any of the other small towns around Elkhart. And as such, you can imagine there's a lot of RV transport going on.
Yep.
And I can tell you from just pure observation of seeing these trucks day in, day out with the Horizon Transport or whoever transports slathered on the side of them on a magnetic sign, for every 10 Dodges, there are about 2 Fords and no Chevys.
Yeah.
It was a rare day if I saw a Chevy being used as a hauler.
Yep.
Now, I'd see them as chase vehicles and on wide loads and that kind of stuff, but for whatever reason, they just weren't buying them. But man, the Dodges, and eventually when Ram became its own brand as Ram, they're just everywhere. Like you said, everyone liked the Cummins. The 6.7 Cummins they're making now is a really impressive motor. The 6.7 Ford is equally as impressive, and you can get into the horsepower battles and torque battles, and every year they bump this one to 925, and the next year Ram bumps theirs to 930. All they're doing is just turning up the wick on the fuel.
Yeah.
But the reality is they both tow exceptionally well. If I was going to buy a truck, I would probably give the nod to the Ram. But again, I like you, it's just down to preference. I can't really give you a definitive, this one is definitely better than the other, but I think GM's kind of a distant third in the heavy-duty towing wars.
My opinion is, and I'll say it this way, go sit in both I'm going to just throw the Chevy out just because, not because I don't like him, I just don't think for that heavy of a trailer is what he's talked about.
Yeah.
I don't think it would live up to what you need. Go sit in the Ford, go sit in the Dodge, whichever one you like. I don't think you'll make a wrong choice between the two.
Yep, I completely agree.
So,
what else do we have here?
we have lots. So Doug's trying to read through it all.
I was hoping Chad had distilled this down into salient little points and
No, I'm like copy, paste,
paragraphs. I was just trying to make sure
So
we
if you
got to
guys do want to
everything.
get a hold of us, you can send us a message as Eminent Performance, and I generally have Facebook open most of the day. Not that I'm necessarily on it, but I have it open. So if we get a message on there, I'll see it. It's not uncommon. I'll chat with people all day long, just sending messages back and forth because I kind of have the job where I can do multiple things at once as I'm waiting for other things to complete. So if you want to get a hold of us, that is an excellent way, and I will chat back and forth with you, as some people have now found out. So
Steve, is it Mueller?
I believe that's how it's pronounced, yes.
Okay.
If it's wrong, please tell us, Steve.
He says, love the podcast. I'm going back and listening to all of them, like the race recaps. It's funny to hear the same frustration on the tracks I also share. Let's see, funny story. I'm also an IT guy. So, wow, I like this guy.
Yep.
And Steve actually races the same circuit we raced.
Yes, he races a 1000 Polaris, and this coming year now, he is actually Polaris backed. They supplied him with the machine. Now, he didn't get it for free, he was telling me, but deep discounted.
Heavily backed, yeah.
Yes.
And I'm actually kind of excited because he is racing the one with the Dynamics suspension.
Yes, he is.
And his first reaction to it honestly surprised me. He said he likes it. He said when he pitches it into a corner, it doesn't want to roll like the old one, but then it's not as rough in the other sections. Like, it seems like it's working for him.
Yep.
Now, the durability remains to be seen because we know how hard these seasons are, but at least the initial report was pretty positive.
Yep. And he even said I could ride along a time or two maybe and see what's going on with it. So that'll be fun. I'll do that.
Absolutely.
I want to see what it's all about. So,
because as we've kind of covered, we're not going to be doing a ton of racing. We are still going to do some, but squeezing in the trips we want to do and trying not to go broke in the whole process. It's By the way, sponsors. No. No, but seriously, if we would like to come to as many places as we can, but we're funding this ourselves. Eminent Performance is not a money-making dynamo at this point, so
making some, but not much. I mean,
yeah, and that's just going to go right back into developing other parts. So we'll have to probably put some of this on the table until later. But what do we got here? So he said he is backed by Polaris.
Now,
he does want to hear us talk about turbo versus naturally aspirated.
Yes, he did. I'll throw my opinion out there, and it's probably not as popular or even what a lot of people would think I would say. But I would say 99% of the world doesn't need a turbo, myself included.
What?
I would love to have one.
You had me right up until that last sentence.
I know. I would love to have one. But for Indiana and most of the terrain around here, you can't really use it.
You can't keep it spun up.
No.
That's true.
So, specifically my trails I have here around my place, there's like one spot I could open it up and I don't know. I mean, the turbo would be faster back in the back field. I could spin it up and it would be faster than 1,000. Do I really need to push that much harder? I mean, would I love to? Yes, but is it worth the extra money?
So he
Probably
says
not.
turbo versus NA, but let's expand this a little bit because we just watched, was it the UTV blog?
Side-by-side blog?
Side-by-side blog.
Yeah.
Where they did a supercharger, not a turbocharger, on a YXZ. And it's literally a miniature roots blower. And it kind of in setup looks like it would be a centrifugal. Like it hangs off the side of the motor and it's belt driven. But it really is a miniature roots blower. Now, we'd kind of talked about during when we were watching that whole thing, the pluses and minuses, and the YXZ is more of a twister than a torquer, so you're kind of taking that low-end torque it's already missing, but you're getting power right out of the gate. So what do you think about in our terrain? Would you be interested at all in a supercharger?
Well, possibly. Now, see, here's the thing. I guess it all kind of depends on the machine. Because, okay, let's look at the new machine, and we'll talk about it maybe not in this episode, but one. Like the new Wildcat or Arctic Cat, Textron, whatever, XX that's coming out. They're saying it's going to have 130 horsepower. The YXZ is 100 horsepower, so it's already 30 horsepower more.
Yeah.
And they're the same exact engines. So do you need the extra on top of what you could probably get that YXZ motor to anyway? Because if you can get it to that in a Wildcat, then you can get it to that in a YXZ if you mess with it a little bit.
Right. And it sounds weird, but I'm with you. If I'm out running dunes, I want a turbo.
Yeah, I want all the power I can get.
Yeah.
Every ounce of it, yeah.
But if you're in tight woods, again, I'm not super interested now. Maybe you're going to change your opinion after riding along, but I tend to agree with you. There's only spots where it's useful. I'm more of a fan of just having the right size tires and the right gearing. So with the YXZ being able to, put the tag gearing in there and go down,
70-30-30.
Yeah, 70-30-30 in there. That gets you out of the hole, and you don't have to worry about the backshift lag from your CVT. I mean, you just, if you're riding an SS, you just grab the paddle and you go back to where you need to be and you get on the throttle.
Yep.
And he says, sorry, I really love turbos, which I agree with. They're a rush.
Oh, yeah.
But I agree with you. I don't think that the average person needs one, and I don't know, based on our race experience, on some of those tighter tracks, the 900s were hanging with 1,000 turbos, the 900 naturally aspirateds.
Yeah.
They just couldn't find any room to stretch their legs.
Yeah. Now they get out in the open and the 1000 turbos would walk away from them, but back in the woods, the 900s could keep right back up.
Yeah, and whatever room you gained, you give back up. I mean, the 900s, you might have walked away from it in the field section, but you're going to give it right back in the woods. They're right back on your bumper within 20 seconds.
Yeah. So I would say for a majority of things, a turbo isn't really needed unless your racing style dictates needing it, or you're riding if you're out in the dunes or whatever.
Like we watched the video of that ice race.
Yep.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was,
and I could totally see having a turbo. How often was that guy just wide open
Yeah.
for minutes on end?
That was the one that we got invited to. It is up in Minnesota, I believe it was, or was it Wisconsin?
I think it was Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, wherever it was, Minnesota or Wisconsin, I can't remember now. But
Cold
basically,
and north.
Yeah, they raced on flat, frozen lakes, and it was, take off from the start line, shift, get up into top gear, and hold it there, and you'll slow down and maybe drop. The guy we were watching was running a YXZ. You might drop a gear and go down for a turn, but
Man, he was flying.
oh, he was fast. Yeah.
Holy cow, is he fast.
Now, he was running a YXZ with a turbo, and he was set up. I mean, he was fast.
But when he smoked by that X3,
oh, yeah.
he just...
He went by an X3 probably passing him 10 mile an hour faster than the X3 was moving at.
Oh, yeah. It was pretty impressive what he was doing out there. He was running hard.
Yeah. So that was neat.
So yeah, if you were racing in that class, let's say they had 1,000 class and they didn't make any differentiation between turbo and naturally aspirated, you're out of luck if you don't have a turbo.
So as Steve and I were talking, and I don't know if I threw this in there, but classes now are getting to the point where some of the racers are not happy with them. We'll say Midwest Cross Country, you can be a turbo and be in just the heavy class, not the pro class. And
oh, really?
yeah, you can be a turbo and you can just stay back in the heavy.
That's true. It's just 900 up. There's no
differentiating.
Yeah.
And GNCC has gone the other way, where if you have a turbo, you are in the pro line. You have no option, from what I understood of the new rules.
So you can't be an amateur turbo racer.
No. Well, you can, but you're running with the pros.
Okay, sure. You're just not backed.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and typically pro means you're paying a lot more to race. The entry fees are, way, way, way higher.
I never checked what the 1000cc and the pro rows pay to race side by sides, but I know for us, when we were going to race it last year, just to race was like $150 or something like that, and that's no equipment, nothing.
And the pro payout was typically $400 for first. You literally could make more racing a quad.
Oh yeah,
as a pro.
Far and above. So yeah, some of the rules are, I think there needs to be a little more standardization on the rules, because it's a little up in the air.
So what do you think? You've got a light class that's 800 cc's on back.
Yep.
Do you have a heavy natural aspirated and a heavy turbo and then a pro?
Yes. Just
So
I'd lump
four classes.
Yeah, I'd lump all the pro line together.
Yeah, turbo or not, that's
If
pros,
you choose
pros
to
are
run pro, you're running,
and that's
up
your
there.
call. Yeah.
Right. And you're not forcing anyone into that line unless they want to race that line.
And I agree. And in at least our series we were racing in, you could be a light and have a turbo as well. And honestly, I don't really have a problem with a light turbo running with a naturally aspirated turbo, because you really are limited on what you can get out of those motors and have them hold together. And is it an advantage? Sure, but it's a pretty limited advantage.
Yeah, round 2, the first round that we raced this last year, there's one guy who had a RZR 800 that was turbo, and I will fully admit, and he's the only one who had more power than us, he would walk away from us in the open sections. Flat walk away from us.
But once that turbo spun down in the woods,
we just ate him alive.
yeah.
And he didn't hold it together or anything. I mean, no, we didn't in other races, but
To turn a turbo, you need displacement. And when you don't have a lot of displacement to start with, it just takes a while to get one spinning, or you're running one so small that you're just not making any real appreciable boost.
yeah.
Those are your options. So I don't really think there needs to be a differentiation in the lights.
No, probably not. I mean, I didn't see a big enough vast difference when we raced the one that it was.
And most people aren't doing it. If you're going to waste the money, on a turbo and all the plumbing, if you're doing it yourself or buying a machine, you're going to buy something bigger than an 800.
Yeah. Well, I mean, normally you're talking $3,000 for a turbo setup, so you're going to spend $3,000 on a machine that's worth 5 or 6.
Yeah. Because honestly,
not.
And if you go to sell it, you're never going to get that money back.
Oh no, it's just gone.
Yeah. You just kiss it goodbye. So there you go. Sorry you really love the turbos. Sorry, we're just not as
I'm not sorry.
big a fan.
People need to buy them, and I understand why they buy them. I'm just saying most people don't need them. If I had the choice, would I get one? Yes. Do I need one? Not at all.
I'm just not used to you being the voice of reason.
Look at me.
I'm not sure what to do. Is it the chair?
Maybe
I can't
setup.
twist in the chair.
Yeah, I know. You're still pumping your leg though, like wild.
I'm hyper. I don't sit still well.
I'm reclined. This is
You are.
comfortable.
You're really you're staying on the mic better too. I usually have to yell at you to stay on the mic because you kind of drift.
I do.
It makes my audio editing hard.
I get sidetracked and I move around. So
You're like stuck in there now. It's like you're racing.
I am. It's like a seat for racing.
So what else do we? Man, that's a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's a ton of questions. So we can go on, or maybe we can revisit some of his stuff at the end if we need more fill.
We're not filling. This is quality content. Come on,
Filling
man.
with quality content.
I did want to get to a few of these other things down here before, and
We've had some of them on the list for a while, and we just don't get to everything. People think like, and we even talked about how are we going to fill an hour. It is not hard for us at all.
Well, I was going to say, I've had people tell us what we're doing is fairly difficult. I don't know. I guess we've just known each other so long, and we talk. Back when I lived up north, varying seasons of life, it would change whether you had a drive to and from work and vice versa. But you'd call and we'd talk on the phone probably 3 to 4 times a week, and it would be for 45 to 50 minutes at any given time.
Yep.
And so I guess we've just never had a trouble BSing about stuff.
We can talk.
We can talk. So yeah, I was kind of confused how we were going to fill an hour show on a weekly basis. I thought, well, an hour is not a big deal if we do it every other week. But so far, it's no sign of slowing up. And again, that's due in large part to you guys giving us feedback and wanting to hear what we think about things and dialoguing with us. And man, we appreciate that.
Yep.
I am curious about this one, the RZR RS1.
Okay. So that it hasn't actually even released yet.
No.
By the time this podcast comes out, it will have released. It's supposed to release, I think it's tomorrow. It's the 1st, I believe, of February.
I wonder if that'll make it into Trump's State of the Union address tonight.
I wouldn't count on it.
Aw,
So
the state of our razors is strong.
a lot of people are very unimpressed by this. A lot of people. And I'm not
From what perspective? Because honestly, I'm going to fully admit here, I did some reading about it when it was kind of a pie in the sky idea 4 or 5 months ago.
Right.
I haven't seen any press on it, like as it's going to be released.
It is.
What do they not like?
So, okay, I'll give you the basic rundown of what we all know so far. I don't remember the width. It's not amazingly wide or amazingly narrow.
Is it about the same size as the current Ace, the 900?
No, bigger. Longer travel.
Okay.
16 inches of travel, I think, in the front is what it was, and about the same in the rear, maybe slightly more. It is basically a 1000 XP machine, same motor, same everything, but they've detuned it a little bit. Not surprising. It's lighter, it's single seat, so on and so forth.
I know, but that's not what the people want to hear.
No, that is not. And so it's really same thing. They just kind of took a seat away and narrowed it, and that's same as the 1000 XP. Yeah, a lot of people are underimpressed. I did find it extremely funny. If you look, you guys will have probably seen it at this point. I don't know if Doug's seen it, but they took the picture that's like leaked, quote unquote, of this single seat 1000, and they made like a 4-seater version of it, and instead of like side by side front row, side by side rear, it's like 4 single seats in a row.
Okay, I'm looking for that now.
He's looking for it. But I will say a lot of people were just kind of underwhelmed by it. It's kind of meh, same hat, you know. I'm not a Polaris guy, so I wasn't super excited to see what they were releasing. But when it came out, I think it'd be a hoot. I was they're chatting back and forth to Steve with it. And I was like, I bet it would be an absolute hoot to drive. I'm sure it's just going to be a ton of fun. If you look on Facebook, TGM.
Oh, okay. There. I'll go pick it up.
I'm sure it'd be a hoot to drive. I am, as much as I ride by myself even, I have no desire to own one like that. So, the other thing that I found pretty funny / dumb, you get in on the left-hand side, it has a left-hand door. The right-hand side looks like it has a door, but it doesn't open. So you sit in the middle, but you can only get in from the one side, which I thought was very strange.
Cost-saving measure? I don't know.
I'm sure it was, but I mean, what's a hinge and a latch cost?
I'm with you. I guess, even if I was riding alone, I'm just not that excited about it either. I'm really having trouble believing they had a huge market demand for this thing. And I'm having trouble believing that given a fair amount of time that this is going to survive in the lineup. I mean, I guess it could, but it's going to be for people who just want to go out and throw them around, because most places other than GNCC don't have a dedicated like ace class.
Yep.
And you can't really throw them in with other heavies because they have the same size motor, but they have a definite horsepower to weight advantage. And you can't really throw them in with the lights for the same reason. And I don't know.
I'm going to show Doug a picture. That is the normal one. I mean, and it looks just like it's a Honda Pilot / Odyssey / you all have seen it. You can't see it on my phone. So now I'm going to scroll down and show him the nice 4-seater one that they made. It literally is the same machine, and it's just a 4 single seats stacked back to back to back.
What they need to do is have a fifth seat like up and behind with another steering wheel like the fire engines, so you can get that thing around corners.
Yeah.
Have dedicated rear steer, but you have to have a second pilot.
Yeah. So, I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about that thing.
I'll be honest, if I want a bunch of performance in a single seat, I'm going to go jump on a quad. That's just me.
Yeah.
I know it's not the same riding dynamics, but I'm just saying if I just want to do that, I'm on a quad.
Yep. I'm going to say it's a pretty limited market. There will be some guys race it because like GNCC has a single seater class that they run. Steve and I were talking about this, like our series, the MWXC that we raced last year. They're going to have to do something because there was a kid there who had the Ace 900 and he raced, and they told him this going in. He just wanted to race because he just wanted to race. He didn't care about point standings or anything else. But they literally threw out his times of every one, even though he won a couple of them.
Yeah, they gave him a DNF for every race. And the other thing that they need to figure out is he was racing really competitively.
Yep.
To the point where he was clipping other drivers and kind of bullying people on the track like an aggressive racer would.
Yep.
But he wasn't competing for points, and these people were, and it didn't earn him a whole lot of goodwill.
No, people weren't thrilled about that.
But there's not enough of them. I mean, the weekend is really packed already, and I don't know that there's enough of them. I mean, it was just him. If you had 5 or 6 showing up on a regular basis, you just make another row. It's only 3 rows. You add a 4th.
Right.
But there's just not that many people that own them. So there's no good solution.
Well, and Steve and I talked about this when we were chatting back and forth here a couple of days ago, that the number of people who actually race a side-by-side is absolutely minuscule in comparison to the people who own them.
Oh, yeah.
And he was, talking
It's a scary proposition. How many times have we said, who wants to buy a $30,000 fully decked out machine and then go run it into a tree during a race?
Well, the stupid thing is you're going to buy a $30,000 machine, dump another $10,000 into it to get it up to tech inspection level. If you're going to GNCC or something, you might not dump quite that, but you're going to get close. You start putting different wheels, different tires, harnesses, radios,
and then parts throughout the season.
Yeah, you're going to dump 10 grand pretty quick, and take it out and know that you're going to just abuse this thing to no end.
Yeah. It's a tough sell unless you're factory backed, or you've got dealer backed, or you've got somebody behind you that's footing some of that bill. That's why I kind of like the light class. It's they're less expensive, and you can trash them and not feel as bad about it.
As bad, yes, as bad.
But
no.
Did you guys solve the great single seat debate? Sorry, I keep cutting you off.
No, you're fine. Not really. I mean, we both kind of said, they just probably need another class for them. That's really the only option, because...
And they do it in quads.
Yeah.
I mean, the Pro 4x4
Yeah.
ATV, one race, I think there was 2. Every other race, there was 1. And then same thing on the amateur side. They had a 4x4 class, and they had a utility class too.
Yeah.
And most of the time, there was one racer just out there unopposed, but he was getting points.
Yeah.
And you're only talking about launching 4 rows instead of 3. It's not
the end of the world.
Not that big a deal. Quads, we have anywhere between 7 and 9 rows. On bikes, we can have like 11.
Yeah.
I mean, so...
we've had 13.
Yeah, 4 sounds pretty reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, we just kind of said, because of the fact that they're so much lighter than a normal side-by-side, and really you can get the same power out of them, because they may detune them slightly. You can get that back with an aftermarket ECU, and
Yep.
you can get that right back. So they really need to be in their own class, and that's really why the one that was racing this last year did so well. He was a 900. He was so narrow that he could just basically hold it to the floor almost the whole time through, because he didn't have to slow down near as much for the corners. And then he had nearly the same amount of power for everything else, and our series has historically been not near enough open space out there to open them up and have the big displacement really make a difference. So
the one thing I really like is they do fly well. I'll make this my kind of last little point, but go out to GNCC and look up some of the race video and find the Ace class running. Man, they fly over. I mean, when they hit those jumps, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, no, they do fly well. Normal side-by-sides tend to nose down.
Yeah, these things look like they were purposely built for jumping. I mean, they're clearing jumps that side-by-sides are taking slower. So it's like a tabletop jump that, they're just kind of landing on the top of it like you would normally think, and these Aces are just sailing over the whole thing.
Yeah, well... a lot lighter, the weight displacement's different and everything else, so yeah.
Lean back!
Yeah, well, and body movement on them also does play a role, where normally in a side-by-side, you don't affect it.
Yeah.
I mean, you move around in there and it doesn't affect it at all. So, yeah.
So more about our beloved Wildcat XX.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be coming in March and April.
Yep.
And these 2 things you brought out, I noticed as well, and I really like. Has an alternator.
Yes.
And it's dry sump.
So, as Doug just stated, it does have a normal car automotive style alternator, which I was ecstatic to see, because that's one of the things. I mean, the charging systems on pretty much all side-by-sides, they've gotten better in the last year or 2. They're just not big enough to handle much of anything.
Well, no. I mean, we threw power steering and a couple, a CVT blower and a couple little things like that on ours, and we were discharging during a race.
Yeah, we couldn't keep the batteries up at that pace. I mean, for the time we ran, they stayed up. That wasn't the problem.
But if we were out there all day,
yeah, no, it wouldn't have lasted. And that's ridiculous. And that's not running. I didn't run headlights. All I did was I had to run the minimum of taillights on.
Yeah.
So I ran minimum of taillights on. That was it.
No headlights, no light bars, nothing like that.
Yeah. And there's guys out there running stereos and everything else. So this thing having an actual car, I don't know what the charging rate on it is, what its rating is, but
I'm guessing it's not going to be huge. I don't know, maybe 40 or 50 amp, small alternator like that, but that's better than a glorified magneto.
Yeah, and that's what we've basically had in the side-by-side world up to this point. And then the dry sump, that's... Well, I mean, that comes from the Yamaha.
Before you get to that, though, the Double X also comes with a electrical, like basically accessory bus bar installed.
Correct.
Doesn't it? So I like the fact that they've not just thrown that in there and then, oh, too bad, it doesn't actually work. They put some thought into this thing.
Well, the Polaris already has that, and that's one of the things I really like about the Polaris.
Absolutely.
Is that they thought about as a whole. Now, they've almost gone to the Apple, like iPhone model where, everything Polaris just bolts and clicks in and it, plugs in instantly and it's all great.
It's an ecosystem.
But it costs 4 times as much and, whatever. Yeah. Polaris has kind of gone that way on some of their stuff, but not near as bad as Apple products. But yeah, the Double X is rumored to have a bus bar, and I think from what I've been told, they're saying it will be like in the cabin space. So
yes.
That will make it nice. The Polaris is under the hood, so it's not like it's inaccessible. It's behind the dash / under the hood, so it's accessible there, but easily accessible. It supposedly has ground constant 12 and switch 12 volt. So, man, it's thinking ahead, and that's what I was talking about, man. Back beginning of this whole podcast thing when we started it, the UTV industry has come a long way, and they're starting to get more like cars did in the mid 90s at this point, where they've got them as good functional vehicles. Now they're working on the creature comforts that make them really convenient and really nice. Because if you think back to the 80s, they weren't even that great of cars.
You're just lucky if it started.
Yeah. The 90s, they were a good, solid car. Now, maybe they weren't quite as good as they are now, obviously. But then they started working on the creature comforts that really make them a pleasure to be in. I think that's where the side-by-side world is now, too.
Well, yeah, you have seen that. Honda's claim to fame used to be reliability.
Yeah.
That's what they sold their brand on, was you buy our car, you get a reliable car. Now it's just the same type of stuff as everybody else. It's the creature comforts and, they talk about resale value and that kind of stuff. But in the Honda ads, you've noticed they don't talk about the Honda reliability. No matter what, this thing is going to start and it's going to run, because basically
all of them do.
Everything does.
Yeah.
So that game has shifted.
So, and I think it's shifting in the side-by-side world too. And I really think I think Yamaha is kind of that Honda brand that they have been, because Yamaha, their claim to fame for the longest time was reliability and build quality. Build quality is still excellent, and so is reliability, but a lot of them are becoming to where they're really reliable, aside from fires.
Well, look at these. Dude, come on, man. Polaris might want to back us someday.
Well, if they can sort out the fire thing, I'm all for it.
They're going to back you with a very specific one.
Yeah.
I think you should drive that one over there. Well, look at the CF Moto. I mean, it's a Chinese-made UTV. The motor is a Chinese knockoff of a Rotax. But it's been really, really reliable. We have beat the snot out of that thing. And the least reliable bit has been you and me.
Yep,
so,
pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they're all kind of there. So it's going to come down to which one fits you best. When you sit in it, which one do you like? And
price point. I mean, too.
They're all kind of honing in on each other, too, though. I mean,
you got the CF Motos coming in under the others at price point. Now, I think
it is.
So,
but they're not competing in the same space. I mean, they're releasing 1,000 now, but it's not the kind of 1,000 that's going to compete with any of the YXZ or the X3 or the RZR 1000.
No.
So they're kind of competing in a little bit of a different space.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
So the Yamaha X4 from Dirt Every Day, we're going to skip that one because I haven't watched that episode of Dirt Every Day.
You need to watch it.
And I want to.
That's a good one.
Because it's got my beloved X4 that someday I will own.
But you have to buy one.
I have to buy one first. So is that a limiting factor?
Yes.
Yamaha, if you're listening, we are open to sponsorships and backing, and you can tell we love your machines.
Yep.
So that's probably not enough for you, but I'll throw it out there anyways. One thing I did want to get to, because it's been on here forever, and I do think it's important. Do we have trivia for me?
I have trivia for you.
Okay, so we have to get to that too. Let's talk belt temps and if you're monitoring and why you should be.
Yep.
Belt temps. You should be monitoring them, especially if you're racing.
Yes, fully agree.
And what's the over-under? 210s where you're getting pushy?
It depends on the belt. And it kind of depends what you're actually measuring. If you're measuring like exiting air temperature, it's different than actual like infrared measuring the belt temperature, the actual live belt itself. So But yeah, really, man, anything over 210 of exiting air temperature, you're really
getting pushy.
Yeah, you're pushing that edge. So,
And if you're staying even in that, say 200 on up, if you're staying there for a significant amount of time, like it's not cooling back down, you've shortened that belt life already.
yeah. So there are a couple different ways. Razor, I think it's Razorback. Anyway, they have an infrared belt temp monitor that is really nice. Now, it is really pricey, like up in, I think, nearly $300 range just to monitor it.
Yeah, that's
So,
spendy.
I can see the need. I'm not saying it's,
Again, if you're running a really premium rig, that's a small expense. If
Agreed.
you're racing on a budget, that's a big expense.
Right. So I guess it kind of depends where you are. Yeah, and man, really the biggest thing that kills most people's belts is the heat. I mean, it's not, I've worn my belt out. Well, you do, but the problem is when you heat it up, you burn through it so fast. I mean, you get it up there at 200, 210, 220 degrees. It's not that, now the belt can just come apart. It starts like delaminating and coming apart. But the problem is you get up there and the compound of the belt starts to get really soft and you just start going through it really quick. And the quicker you go through it, the thinner that belt gets, the more it slips, the more it puts heat into it. And it's just this vicious circle of then you got more heat in it, then you're slipping it more, and then you're burning it more. And it's just this vicious cycle of you'll just chase it. And eventually you're just going to either blow it or it's not really going to have any performance left.
So really, in general, the cooler the better. If you're running hard, it's going to heat up, but you need to evaluate your driving style at that point and how hard you're pushing the machine. I mean, there's only so much you can do. You can move gallons of air through that thing per millisecond, and it doesn't matter. You reach a point where you just can't keep it cool if you're being that hard on it. So maybe you need to look at clutch adjustment. Maybe you need to set yourself up where you give a little top end speed up, but you backshift quicker.
Yeah.
You need to start making some changes if you're pushing your belt that hard.
Yeah. And I had one guy who he runs a CF Moto, and he was convinced that he needed to filter every bit of dirt out of that went into his clutch on the intake side of his CVT system. And he had 2 filters on it, and one of them was a dual stage filter and everything else.
Sheesh.
And I told him, I said, pick up one of these belt temp monitors. It was a cheap one. They were like $40. I was like, just pick one up and put it in. And he put it in. He realized how hot his belt was getting.
Because it couldn't breathe.
It couldn't breathe. He wasn't putting any air through it because he was so worried about filtering it. So he started pulling filters, and he said it does so much better. Now, he still is a little heavy on the filter side. My opinion on filtering belts, I basically run like we call a Scotch-Brite pad a coarse filter. I want to keep the large chunks of junk out of it.
Keep the squirrels out.
Yeah. Anything else, let it blow through because it's not really going to hurt it. That belt and everything else, it's making dust. I get in the CVTs pretty regular, blow them out. That's a big thing. Just blow them out. I mean, it's just dust in there.
Yep.
Most CVTs anymore, no one runs grease really in them. Most of them are dry. Some guys still run grease because they're convinced it's the best, and I'm not going to get into that argument one way or the other. But I am going to say if you do run grease, you need to get in there and change it very regularly because dust and dirt and belt.
You're trapping it in there.
Yeah, it's staying in there. And
grease is designed to be a lubricant that stays in place. So if you have dirt in it, the dirt is staying in place. The poor thing doesn't have a chance to clean itself.
That is completely true. So,
all right. Well, we got to get stupid things with Chad.
Okay. My wife told me another one, but I can't remember what it was. But we have several on the list here.
I was going to say, your juice drinking one was really choice.
My wife is yelling from the other room what it was.
Electrical wires?
Do we want to hear that one?
I'm curious now. If she thought it was worth bringing up.
Okay.
Let's do it.
It's a pretty quick one. So we were building my parents' house. They live just behind me. And I was, scarily enough for you, Doug, who is a union electrician certified person, I did a lot of the electrical over there.
Well, that was like in the 90s, and it's still standing, so I'll give you a pass.
Hasn't burned down yet. So my brother comes up. I was working on the second floor, just doing, I don't know, switches or outlets, whatever I was doing at the time. And he's like, the power was on, or we were turning it off and on. I was checking things, whatever. And he goes, I wonder what it feels like to, touch the wires. I'm like, try. And he goes, no, you try. So then it got into a contest. Let's see who grabbed the wires the most.
Like, hold on the longest?
The most number of times. I think
okay.
the qualifier was you had to touch it for at like a second. Like touch. So it bit you anyway.
You basically like Guantanamo Bay'd yourself.
12 times. I grabbed him 12 times.
Well, I know why you're grayer than I am, even though I'm older than you.
Built tough. Not smart.
Did you like any tongue touching?
No.
Okay, so
I
it
did
wasn't
lick
terrible.
an electric fence once, though.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. Why not? I wanted to see what it was like.
How was it?
Tingly?
How long was your tongue numb? Could you taste food like for days?
Oh, I don't remember. I mean, it was...
You don't remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, kids, that tells you everything you need to know. If you lick an electric fence, you won't remember.
I have no drain bramage.
All right, speaking of brain damage, what brain damaging trivia do you have for me this time?
It's not that bad. You act like it's horrible.
Sometimes it is.
Okay, so this one, there's themes. It's 2 themes.
Ooh.
It's like Earth or geography theme, and then the other half is animals.
Okay.
Okay. What percentage of the world's population lives in the northern hemisphere? And it just around, it doesn't have to be like, 38.72%. Just, give me a close enough.
Northern hemisphere. Man, I got to believe it's lighter. So I'm going to go with 40%.
90%.
In the northern hemisphere?
In the northern hemisphere.
Really? Well, oh, yeah, gosh. I guess if you think land mass, it is more...
Most of it's up there.
I was just thinking how crappy it is up here. Why would you want to do that? 90%.
90%. I was shocked that it was that high. I would have, 60, 70% maybe, but 90 is that's a lot.
I guess I'm not super big on geography, but are China and India both in the northern hemisphere?
I don't know about India. I believe a lot of China is.
Okay, that makes sense then. I guess for some reason I was thinking they were further south, but now that I'm thinking about what a globe looks like, yeah, those two alone would would bump it.
Yeah, that would swing the needle a bit.
There you go.
Okay. What is the largest desert on the planet?
The largest desert.
Yeah.
I'll say Sahara because it's a name I'm familiar with, but I know it's not.
No, Antarctica. That is considered a desert.
Yeah, it is because it's purely by rainfall. It has nothing to do with temperature.
Yep. And it gets like no rainfall.
No, it doesn't.
So
sneaky.
Yeah.
You sly devil, you.
Look at me go. Which is bigger by square miles, like footage?
Okay.
Asia or the moon?
This seems like a trick question. I'm going to go moon.
It is Asia.
What?
Yep. Asia covers 17.2 million square miles, and the moon covers 14.6 million square miles.
That's pretty amazing.
I did not know that. That's a new one for me.
I
Totally.
never would have guessed that. I figured it was a trap question.
I thought you said, "Oh, I think it's a trick question," and I'm like, "He's going to guess Asia."
Well, you'd figure the moon, but no.
So it's like a double trick question. I got
So
you.
if we moved everybody from Asia over to the moon, they'd be less happy about it. I mean, other than lack of oxygen and
Other
food
than
and that
dying
kind of
and
stuff.
whatnot, yeah.
If you're going to get all picky.
Yep. Cram them into a smaller space.
Huh.
Okay.
Look at me learning.
Which U.S. state has the most shoreline? You got a one
single state?
Yeah, single state.
Michigan.
Nope. Minnesota.
What?
90,000 miles. All the lakes.
Because there's a lake every 2 feet?
Yep.
I feel sorry for the poor sap who had to figure that out.
So, as a fun little side trivia note, it has more than California, Florida, and Hawaii combined.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I don't like that one.
I don't like it because I got it wrong.
Exactly.
Okay. How many time zones are there in Russia?
I'm not a geography buff. Are you noticing this?
I know. I'm enjoying this.
I know. You pick subjects on weekend to show how... This is classic rock trivia.
Maybe we'll do one of those next.
Yeah, because then I'm just going to show... You're going to pick out some really weird arcane ones I won't know there either. That's why I enjoy this segment. I do learn. Well, Russia is... We're about 3,000 miles wide. I think we established Russia as like 5,500. We have 4 time zones, excluding like Hawaii and stuff. I'm going to go with... I'm going to say 9.
11.
11. I was close.
That
That was some quick reasoning on my part.
Yes.
They probably have some weird like half-hour time zones in there, I'm guessing.
I don't know. But they do have 11. So now we're on to the animal ones. You've gone through geography. I don't know why I like animal ones.
Because you're animalistic at your core.
Well, because animals don't backtalk so much.
I was going to say, you feel more at home with them, I think.
Yes. How many cubic feet of gas does a cow belch on the average day?
How many cubic feet? I really don't have a...
They don't teach you this in school or in your government job or
287.
35. You got a gassy cow or something.
I don't know. I keep hearing about how cows are a bigger pollution problem than cars. So.
Yeah, but that's like methane farting. That's the
wrong end.
Yeah, wrong end.
Oh, my bad.
Wrong end of gas.
I'm sorry, I'm not really in tune with my cow gassing and what side it comes from.
Well, you need to be.
Now I know.
Okay. What was the first living creature ever ejected from a supersonic aircraft?
Ejected? Like intentionally? Because I got to believe it's a bird.
You guys can't hear this because my wife is yelling it from the other room and because they're home. She goes, Chad, these are stupid. She's a teacher, so. Whatever.
Okay, was it intentionally ejected?
Yes.
Oh, then I have no idea because my first thought was a bird because a plane probably hit it and like shot it out the back.
No, this animal was in it. And then they put a parachute on it even. And it's safe. It landed safely.
So this was like back during the Chuck Yeager days of breaking the sound barrier, and they wanted to see what happened if a pilot had to bail, I'm assuming.
Yeah, 1962. I'll give you the year. Even.
Okay, so it was Yeager era.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the chimpanzee, ape, some like human analogous thing.
It was a bear.
A bear? Like what kind of bear?
I don't know. But a bear in 1962, they put a parachute on it, and they shoved it out, I suppose, at 35,000 feet. Made a safe landing.
Was it like some sort of like slam against Russia because we were in the Cold War? And
I have no idea. I'm imagining the poor soul that had to put the parachute on the bear.
Because like
Sit still.
But bear makes a big difference if you're talking koala bear or like, I don't know, Kodiak.
No, I'm imagining like full bear. Like,
wow.
I do not
That
want to be that
sounds like
guy.
such a Russian thing to do, though. Can you just picture them like, you know, this Russian prop plane, and they open the door and "For Mother Russia!" Like
They
kick it
shove
out.
a bear out.
Alexei, did you remember parachute?
First bear didn't make it. Okay. How many beats per second does a bumblebee's flap its wings? Like how many flaps per
second?
Yes.
I'll go 10. That's
One-
really slow. I know.
160.
I'm just throwing numbers out now. I don't know. People on the moon have less room than they do here on the planet. I don't know. I'm all discombobulated.
Bears parachuting out. That's my favorite one.
160 times a second?
That's what it says.
Well,
Well, you've heard the thing that like aerodynamically bumblebees should not be able to fly.
well, see, that's one of those like half truths that gets
Yeah.
thrown out there. What they should not be able to do is take off. They don't have enough thrust to take off, at least in theory. But
they
once
do.
they get moving, they should be able to. You know how you know what the secret is?
They fart when they take off.
No, they clap their wings.
Really?
And when the wings clap, it creates a momentary low pressure.
Oh,
and it gets
vacuum and it sucks
just
them
enough
up?
to get them off.
Good enough. Okay, what? Don't do that. I almost deleted my last two questions. What is a collective noun for a group of monkeys? Like, what is a group of monkeys
Now,
called?
baboons is a congress, so
Yes.
this is not that.
No, these are monkeys.
It's a separate name.
Yes,
A group.
a group of them.
No, that's the
your
name.
answer.
Yes.
No, troop.
A troop.
Yes.
Okay. I've heard, you know what? That sounds familiar now that you say it.
So, what is the? Gosh, I'm gonna delete one of these. Last one. What's the term for a hybrid offspring of a male tiger and a male lion and a female tiger?
Would that be a liger?
Yes, it is.
I had to get one right.
That's why I put it in there.
It's pretty much my favorite animal.
All I can think of is the line you taking off any sweet jumps lately.
Well, if you buy one of those new RZR 1000 single seaters and you do take it off any sweet jumps, we want video.
Yep.
All right. On that sad note, sponsors, thank you so much. Back on board, we have Watch Communications this year, and once again, they are hosting our podcast and our website. So if you need internet access in rural Indiana or Ohio, or if you need website hosting anywhere in the country, they can hook you up with that too. TGM Off-Road, I believe, is back on board with us, as well as utv-doors.com. And do we have
Still have not gotten information on the last
We
one.
have a fourth sponsor. It's still kind of secret-y secret,
Yep.
but we do appreciate the support, guys. This is a lot of fun to do, but it is time-consuming and money-consuming and all sorts of things consuming. Wife's patience consuming.
My wife doesn't have patience.
Well, what little she had, you used up.
I just got yelled at.
But thank you so much. We do appreciate you standing with us, and we've got a lot of stuff in store for this year. So I'm really excited about 2018, and we're barely into it.
Yep.
So
It's going to be good.
we're going to be back next time with more user stuff. Steve, I promise we'll get to the rest of yours. I'm going to distill this paragraph you sent us down into some points I can
That wasn't
read.
all one message. That was multiple messages. I
know.
just copied, paste,
I'm going to
copy,
distill it
paste.
down into stuff that I can read on the fly, though.
Okay.
But no, thank you so much for everybody who's written in. Continue to do so. And if you get a chance and you listen to the podcast, YouTube doesn't really, I mean, you can give a thumbs up or thumbs down. But if you're listening to the podcast on Google Play or Stitcher or any of the other venues you can find us on,
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio, iTunes, they do have a rating system there. If you could find it in your hearts and you listen to it on that venue, please give us a rating, even if it's bad. We just want to know where we stand, and it shows that those outlets that we're generating traffic. So if you could do that, that would be absolutely awesome. And we'll stop begging for stuff now, and we'll be back next week with another one. But until then, thanks for riding along with us.
Thanks, guys.
Tired of screwing up, tired of going down, tired of myself, tired of this town.
Deep